welcome back. We're going to be doing a new video here. This repair is going to be replacing the fuel cell in the boat. So this is going to be my first unboxing. This is probably one of the more expensive things I've done in a while. The fuel cell basically charges the battery while the engine's not running and the battery gets low. So it's like a methanol powered battery charger. So the one I installed maybe 10 or 12 years ago finally gave up the ghost. They only have a limited life of about 3,000 hours, so we hit that, the power dropped off, and so it's time to get a new one. So I got a new one. So this will be my first unboxing, so let's see how it goes. So I'm sure everyone's kind of screaming into their computer or their TV at this moment saying, well, why don't you just get a few solar panels? Well, I don't know, if you've seen the boat, you can see there's really not a lot of real estate to put a lot of solar panels. And being up here in the Northeast, you would need so much to make it worthwhile, and we just don't have the real estate for it on the boat. Plus, they don't look overly pretty. And the boat's a pretty boat, so I don't want to ruin the lines with solar panels. So we went with the fuel cell. The nice thing about fuel cells are they operate at night, where solar panels really don't do that good of a job. And they're inside, so you don't have to worry about lines catching them or anything, or the weather or anything. So it's totally automatic. You hook it up to your power on the boat, and it just works. There is no, other than the initial setup, there's no interaction with the unit at all. So it keeps the battery charged, which is the whole point of it. And we have refrigeration on the boat, and that's kind of the reason why we got this, because this charges the battery to run the refrigerator. So that's the reason why we went through all this. If we didn't have the refrigerator, we probably wouldn't need this. So basically, in a nutshell, this is just a very expensive way of me not having to make and carry ice, or buy ice and carry it on the boat. And if I think of it, I will put a picture of the old fuel cell in the video before I unbox this one. And this is actually 2 generations newer than the one I have. And when I called the company, they were actually kind of surprised that I was still running the old one without any problems. They said they would have repaired the old one, but the parts just weren't available anymore. I mean, it was 2 generations ago, so I can't really complain. So I don't know what are in these magic boxes. So here's the fuel cell itself. Actually, it looks a lot smaller than the old one. So that's the fuel cell. This hooks up to a container of methanol in the boat, and it hooks up with wires to the battery, and it keeps it charged. So normally the alternator will keep it charged, but when you're at a mooring and you're using the refrigerator and other accessories and the battery gets low, this will kick on and charge it. So this is the back of it. Here's where the connections go for the power. And I don't really need these, so that's the back. That's the front. Much smaller than the old one. I gotta say that right off the top. So let's see what these boxes. I'm sure wiring and stuff are in here. Yep, here's the wiring harness. I'm not sure if this is the same wiring harness as my old one. I was kind of hoping to just take the plug out of the old one and plug it into this one. We'll see when we get on the boat, because I'm not sure if this particular harness is the same. And we got a bottle of service fluid, and these are fuses, which I will never ever use. Actually, this is the fuse holder. I don't know if there are fuses in there. Yep, here's the fuse. No, the other fuse holder. So there are two fuses on the power. Hold down straps. The hose. The output of this, other than electricity, is heat and water. So here is the water discharge, which plugs into the back, and a vent for the hot air, which I won't need because it'll just vent into the bilge, which is not a problem. And some hold down straps, clamps for the straps, and the manual. I'm assuming there's a service, a user, and an install manual. I lied, they did give a fuse. I've never seen a gray fuse before, but there is a fuse there. It's kind of weird. Never seen this before. If they're solid gray, so you really can't see if they're blown or not. But you can test it. But I can probably use the ones that are in the boat because they're the same amperage, I believe. And let's see what's in box number 2. Okay, more mounting stuff. This is, again, the tubing. If you were going to vent this somewhere, which I'm not, it's venting into the bilge. If nothing else, it keeps the bilge dry. So if you want to vent this outside, you have this and a cover, which I'm not going to use, and then a holder for the fuels, methanol fuel. And then this is a Bluetooth adapter, so the only way you really can control this is through Bluetooth on your phone. You can get a control panel. I'm not going to install it because the Bluetooth will work. And you have the strap to hold down the fuel. And that's the unboxing. So I will go onto the boat and I will get the bow ready to accept this, because it's under one of the berths in the bow. Okay, we're in the boat. So this is where the fuel cell lives. Underneath this berth here on the port side. Take off the see, there's the old fuel cell. There's the methanol, and there's the methanol back there, and here's a spare container. And here's where the water drips into as it's being used. So you can see the same setup. You have the drain and the power going to the unit here, and the sensing wire. So I'm hoping to reuse this wiring harness if possible. So I'm going to lift up the cushion and the wood underneath. I will do it off camera, and then we will get going on extracting the old unit. Okay, we have the cushions up. So as you can see, here's the old fuel cell, and it's got the strap I have to remove. I'm going to remove the strap there. I'm going to remove the wiring harness and the hose, and this should just come right up. So, and we will see if the new unit can work with the existing mounting bracket. Probably not. And we'll reuse the remaining fuel in that fuel cell container here. And I do have a spare, and let's get going. Okay, here we go. So let's get the methanol fuel out of the way. just about empty. I don't think I'll be reusing that. We'll see. So that's the methanol. This is the fuel that it uses. It's methanol you have to buy from EFOY. It's pretty expensive, so if you need to do something like this, just be wary of the cost of the fuel and how to source it when you're out sailing. Because it's very, very hard to find, and when you do find it, it is very, very expensive. So let's remove the fuel cell itself. Let's undo the hose. Yes, we'll just undo the bracket here. And now wiring harness. Now this model did actually have a control panel, so that's what this wire goes to. There's just a Ethernet cable, which I will have to uninstall later. But for the sake of this video, we don't have to worry about that. So, and then disconnect the wiring harness. That looks shockingly like the one that's in the new unit, so hopefully this will be the same. So let's just get that out of the way. Get the strap out of the way. And this should just come out. That's it. That's the old unit. And again, it worked great for, what, 12 years now? So we can't really complain. And that's the uninstallation, and the installation of the new unit should be exactly the same. So let's get going on that. Well, welcome back. We are going to continue the install of the fuel cell. So I got the fuel cell ready, got the old fuel cell out, and the new fuel here. So we're getting ready. So I'm looking at the plug. Here's the old plug from the old unit. Here is the new plug. And I had a few moments of excitement that the plugs were identical, but they're not. They're slightly different, and they will not work. So you're going to get another video on how to connect wires again, because I need to connect this to the boat, and this wire harness is going to get connected to these 4 wires here. So that's pretty easy, and they get connected to these fuses. These are the old fuses. I'll see if I'll use the new fuse block or continue to use the old one. But let me tear this old stuff apart, and we will get going on installation of the new wiring harness. You've seen me do terminations before. You're going to get another video here. So. And that's why I kind of want to keep rubbing that into everyone's face on how to do marine wire termination, because you're going to do it a lot. So I want everyone to get good at doing it. And it's pretty easy to figure out, and it's the same on the other wire harness, that you have 2 pairs of wires here, and 2 of them are much thicker wire and 2 are very thin. So obviously this is the sense wire and this must be the power wire. So that'll be easy to figure out, and also the fuses are different amperage. So again, that's pretty easy to figure out. So let's get going and tear apart the old Okay, so I got the wiring all apart. So this is the old wiring. So here is the fuse block, and again we have the 2 pairs of wires here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the fuse block here. I'm going to keep the fuse block as is, and I'm just going to cut the wires before it and wire in the new harness to these 4 wires here. And before I do that, I will disconnect because the battery power is still alive, so I will take the fuses out. There are two different amperages of fuses. One's 15 amp, one's 2 amp, and it goes with the gauge of wire so you know which one it goes into. And also the new fuses are a different amperage, so I will use the new fuses. So for now, I am going to cut the wires going to the fuse block here. So these wires are dead because these wires are alive, the fuses are not here. So I will cut the wires here, and these grounds obviously don't have a fuse, so I will cut these as well. All wiring gone. So I'm going to guess, I don't know what the gauge of this wire is. I'm going to guess that it's 16 gauge. Am I right? Okay. Well, it didn't tear, so I guess I'm good. Okay, as you know, the different colors mean different gauges. So we're going to be doing 12 gauge, which is going to be the yellow, and then the 16 gauge is going to be the blue. So I will do this end of it first. And again, you need the special tool that does waterproof terminals if you're using waterproof terminals like I am. Again, I don't do insulated terminals because I only want to have one set of tools and supplies on the boat, and so I chose waterproof terminals because they're the most useful. So, and again, this one will crimp the terminal properly. You need to get this. The only place I can really find it really is online. The easiest place is Amazon. If I think of it, I will put a link in there. So let's get going on this. So let's do the 12 gauge. Give a little twist. Stick it on. Let me check. Is that 16 fit? No. Okay, so it is the yellow. So you got the yellow in there. I'm only going to crimp one side because we haven't done the other side yet. And this goes on the yellow part of here. And again, you just crimp down all the way till it stops, releases, done. Seriously, how much easier can it get? Okay, so I cut off the extra wire off of the wiring harness going to the fuel cell because this is all going the length of the boat and I have an extension wire on there already. So let's get going on stripping the ends of these wires and crimp on the blue. Done. Nice and tight. Just don't tell anyone. It'll be our secret. So now that these are done, I could probably just leave them as is, but since they're heat shrink, I will shrink them. And again, I don't have a heat gun here, so I will use my lighter, which I strongly recommend not to use. But I've done this a lot, and I've never had a problem. So if you do use a lighter, be very careful. Just heat it up. Don't keep it in one place too long. This is a cigar lighter. See, I left it in this one spot too long and it did melt a little bit. Okay, that's one done. That's the thing with using the lighter is you did see me catch some of the plastic on fire for a fraction of a second. Okay, so now the wiring harness is done. not my best work with the heat, but it's done good enough. A little bit of scorch there on the red, but it's done. So I have more than enough wire here to hook it up to the fuel cell. Get it under here. Here's the fuse block. I will put it back in here on the mount. Okay, so the fuse block is mounted. That will be the last connection I make. So I will tidy up the wires later. Here's the wire to the old control panel, which I do not need anymore. I will get that out of the way. I will disconnect that off camera. Now the new unit actually doesn't use the mounting plate like the old unit, but it seems like it's the same footprint, so I will reuse the mount. See, there's the old mount. The new one actually uses little clips that mount to the base and use the straps here to connect. I will not be using that because I believe this is the same footprint. I did test this earlier and it fits in here nicely, so I will use the old mount. So, and again, there's no power here, so it goes in like that. Done. And the only other thing I need to do is hook up to Bluetooth. That's how you control it. And that's that. I will zip tie this somewhere after I get it installed. I'll put it here for now. That's it. That's all the wiring. That's literally it. There are other options here, but this is a single unit. I'm not going to have anything else with it. Okay. Okay, so what we have here now is the drain. So I kind of get that out of the way. Here is the fuel nozzle. It connects to the methanol supply. Over here. And the wiring harness. Okay, so now I will tidy these wires up a little bit with zip ties. If nothing else, just to tidy them up. Clip off the tails. Done. Got that strapped down. Let's hook up the methanol. Again, it has its own little compartment. The new unit came with one, but the old one works. So, strap down. Now let's connect the methanol. So we just need to take the cap off and lift this cover to the very end to feel any contamination. This is what connects here, and it just goes in there. Easy peasy. Okay, that's done. Get this a little snug. done. So nice and tight all over. And other than the fuses, we are done. We actually have new fuses, so we're going to use those. A yellow one. And a gray one. So the gray one is a 2 amp, so that's going to go on the smaller wire, which is in the back. That's the sense. And the 20 amp goes in the front. And we are connected. I see lights going on, so it's doing something. So let's see what we need to do. I see the Bluetooth flickering. I will find a home for that. The only other thing I've got to do is secure the drain. So I have it connected, running around between the fuel cell and then around into this little container down here. So that is 100% hooked up. Now we just need to figure out how to turn the unit on and activate it with the app. And then I will play with the app and I will see if I can get screenshots of that. Okay, I've connected the app to the unit, so I'm going through all the settings. It wants to know how many amp hours we have, so I'm going to say 200 as a guess. Go with 200. It's really like 220, but I don't know what condition the batteries are in. I have an M10. I have no idea if you can see the screen or not. Fuel level is 100%, so could I just put a new one in? Sorry if you can't see this. Transportation lock procedure. The transportation, do you want to deactivate fuel cell transportation now? So the lights are blinking red and green on the unit, and that means that it's in transportation mode. So I want to take it out of transportation mode. And it says to do a firmware update. Let's see if it'll let me do that. Okay, we're back. So I did the firmware update. And so it's showing the fuel at 100%. The house battery is at 12.66%. 12.66 volts. It's in standby mode and it's in automatic. So effectively we're done, and that's about it. So again, the reason why I installed the fuel cell was because I don't have solar, and it's a very expensive option, but it works for my needs. So feel free to debate it in the comments, or if you have any questions, comments, or really anything to talk about this, that'd be great. But that's about it for this installation. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I do appreciate it. It does help. Thank you.